What's going on, everyone, and welcome into Plaisance Podcast. In this episode, I will be talking about the college football playoffs with my good friends Cameron and Carden from the Saturdays in the SEC podcast. Be sure to go check them out. The link is in the description. They have a great channel, and they know more about the SEC than anyone I've ever met. So stay tuned for this episode. Be sure to look at our other ones as well. And thanks again for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe.
But I just want to say, too, with this, obviously, too, the playoff format, I think we probably would all agree, like, I would love to just see the best 12. I would love for there to be something to be worked out where the group of five can kind of have their own playoff. You know, there's been talks of, like, you know, like they're worried about getting sued and all with the litigation thing. So I don't like the group of five's probably staying in, at least having one spot there. But, like, can y'all imagine how awesome, how electric it would be if Notre Dame was going to Oxford this weekend? Like, man, you could just – this year in particular, there was, like, just so many elite matchups. And we've got a couple in the first round. Like, Alabama OU is going to be a lot of fun. A&M, Miami, obviously. But what could be setting up in that quarterfinal and semifinal rounds and going forward, like, man, we've got some elite matchups on our hands. And I think 10 of the 12, you could absolutely make a case for each one of them to be in the semifinals at least. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there is a path and a case for all 10 of those teams. So, and I think if Notre Dame was in there, I think you can make a case for them at least getting to a semifinal or something like that. So I do think it's a very well-balanced playoff between those top 10. So like I said, I think the quarterfinals all the way in are gonna be electric. I think we've got a lot of exciting matchups. Like that quarterfinal matchup of Ohio State and either Miami or Texas A&M, those are like two of the best talent rosters that Ohio State will have played all year. Like either one of those teams are going to be one of the best talent rosters that Ohio State's faced by far. So, man, I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm very, very excited to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, so that was a group of five teams can compete at the highest level. Their strength of schedule is not even close when you compare it to the other teams that are in the playoff. I mean, Boise State last year, they Mountain West team, they were a top 4 seed and they got smoked in the quarterfinals. Cincinnati, Alabama took their foot off the gas, didn't even throw out their whole entire playbook, it seemed, and they dominated that game. The scoreboard didn't show how much that Bama really beat them down by. I think it was 26-12 or 26-10, whatever it was. I don't remember the final score in 2022 or 2022, whatever that was. But like they don't deserve to be in there. You can say, yeah, well, they may can shock the world and win a game and upset a team. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, realistically, it's probably not happening. It might happen once in a blue moon, but hell, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois last year, and they ended up in the national championship game. Like, yes, it can happen, but be real. These teams are not as good as the Power 4 teams. They're not as good. I said this last week. They're not as good as Texas. They're not as good as BYU. They're not as good as Vanderbilt, and they're not as good as Notre Dame. And in any way, neither one, JMU or Tulane. I get it. I understand it. It's an underdog story. I would love to see a group of 5 team make a run. It would be one of the most electric and entertaining things I've seen in college football for sure. But be real, it's not happening. They may win one game, but they're going to get smoked the next week. I just don't ever see a group of 5 team winning a college football playoff game ever. It might happen once every 10, 15 years. I don't see it happening.
Well, they want to tell you it's the best 12, but the committee's the 20th and 24th teams are in, so it's not the best 12. Like, I mean, no, like I said, it's like, yes, they technically play the same sport, but they're not on the same level. It's two totally different brackets. You know what I mean? Like I said, they're not bad teams. Like, they're not bad teams by any stretch, but when you put them up against the other 10 that are in there, it's just night and day difference. It's just, they're not, like you said, could they win one eventually? Yeah, I mean, somebody will probably end up eventually winning one, but like it's going to be very few and very far between.
It's like taking the 1A state champion and letting them play the 7A state champion. Yeah, they both play Alabama high school football or Georgia high school football or Tennessee high school football, but they're in way different classifications. The talent that they're playing week in and week out is completely different. The talent that they have on their roster is completely different. The depth they have on their roster is completely different. It's the same sport, but it's not the same league, not even close. There's a reason that there's different classifications in high school and in college and in every single solitary sport, obviously outside of the NFL. But it's like taking the UFL or the USFL champion and letting them play the worst team in the NFL. They're in completely different leagues. The worst team in the NFL would beat the hell out of the USFL by 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's not comparable at all.
1000%. And as a Catholic, my second favorite team in the world is Notre Dame. And I am of the opinion that Notre Dame got snubbed out of this playoffs, not because of the Miami debacle. Miami deserves to be in over Notre Dame, but because of this garbage system that we are in right now.
100%.
The fact that we're talking about a 2-loss Tulane team whose best win is who?
I couldn't tell you.
Exactly. And then we talk about James Madison, who's their best win, 9-3 Old Dominion. I mean, I mentioned this I went on a massive rant. I turned red. I'm about to get as upset as you were, Carden, when talking about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Go check out that segment, guys. It is 1000% view worthy. But look, we're talking about the 12 best teams in college football. That's what we're supposed to be talking about. And I would give you the argument that look back the last 11 years of the college football playoffs, right? In 2015, there was a CUSA Houston team that went 13-1 and I think beat Oklahoma that year. They deserved to get in. UCF, when they went undefeated, deserved to get in. They were one of the best 12 teams in the country at the time. Cincinnati, when they went undefeated, I don't think they deserved to be in the 4 team, but they would that 1000% deserve to be in the 12 team at large, right? And UCF actually did it multiple times. That's the standard to me that you have to bear as a G5 team. Boise State did it last year. They went 11-1. Their one loss was a game-winning field goal to the number 1 team in the country. They deserved to get into the playoffs, in my opinion. Tulane and James Madison are not in that conversation. Neither of them have played stacked opponents. Neither of them have good wins, and they both have horrific losses. A 2-touchdown loss to a Louisville team that is a middle-of-the-pack ACC team is not a good loss.
Agreed.
Getting blown out by UTSA is not a good loss. I don't know if I'm like breaking news to anybody here, but I can almost guarantee you that Notre Dame and or the ACC is going to probably Notre Dame is going to be leading the charge on getting rid of these auto bids. And the SEC might be in there as well because Texas and Vanderbilt arguably got snubbed, not because they deserve to be in the top 10, but because arguably they could have been in the top 12. That is the main issue. If we're talking about the 12 best teams, put the 12 best teams in. Right now, we live on a system of equality in life and or in this system. Looking at how equality works, it doesn't really work that well. What does work well is equity. And this is the last thing that I want to talk about college football and the layout that it currently is in. Trying to treat Tulane and James Madison as if they were equals in this moment right now is not a good idea. But treating them equitably is a good idea. And that, in my opinion, means the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, based off of their revenue or whatever, pay a certain percent of their tax to these G5 teams to help them recruit, build better facilities, and overall just compete against the SEC, the Big 10, and these other big conferences better. Because as of right now, they're not, and they're not going to be, because they're not being served in the way that they need. That's my big rant, because I don't know if you guys agree, just a yes or no real quick. Do you guys agree that college football is becoming minor league professional football, right?
For sure. For sure.
We're in revenue sharing. We're now having schools sue players over contracts, like that guy that transferred from Georgia to Missouri. We're turning this professional. Let's treat it professionally. The NFL, the NBA do it the absolute best. If you are a bottom feeder team, then you get the best draft picks. If you're a bottom feeder team, you get the easiest schedules. So the group of 5 should get that. And if they outperform what they're at, then sure. If they go undefeated, you can reward them with a college football playoff spot. But if you don't do that, then there's no world, in my opinion, that the way that we're looking at the college football playoff layout right now is just or justifiable. Any remnants of justification has been flown out the door the second that you have the 19th ranked team in the country in a road playoff game. But that's my rant for the day. I apologize.
We're on the same page as you.
Yeah, great.
100%.
Yeah. So, to wrap this up, I also let me get y'all's last thoughts on this. We're talking about college football playoff layouts. Carden, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on conference championships? I'm asking this because I think a lot of people are debating whether or not they should continue to exist. I'll give you the floor.
Well, back in 92, when the SEC created it, which everyone else followed suit with, it was to help with the national championship voting, because then there wasn't a national championship game. It was voted upon. So, it was voted on who the 2 top teams were. They went and played in the Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, whatever the hell it was, Rose Bowl, whatever. And that was the national championship game or whatever. So that's why it was created. It was necessary. It was needed. In today's college football, the layout that we're in now, I don't think it's as necessary or it's definitely not needed, but it's definitely not as necessary as it was back in the 90s and the 2000s. Now, I don't think that it'll go anywhere because of money. And we know, as well as anybody else, college football is all about making money. It's another game that the TV and the sponsors get to promote, and all the commercials and the ads and such. So it's another revenue maker for the big brands, obviously, for every school that plays in it. So it's not going anywhere. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's needed. And had Alabama been left out this year, it probably would have been done away with in the SEC.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't carry as much weight as it used to. That is for sure. I still love watching. I sat here 2 weekends ago and watched every single conference championship game that there was. I was glued to my TV from start to finish. I love it because I love football. I love to watch it. It's high caliber teams playing, so it's always going to be a good product. But it's definitely not as necessary. I've heard talks that there potentially could make it like a play-in type game where you would have taken Texas and Vanderbilt in the SEC for say this year and let them play, and the winner would get in a spot in the playoffs. You would have not let Texas Tech play, and you would have had BYU and whoever the third team was in the Big 12 play. And you wouldn't have had Indiana and Ohio State play in the Big 10. You would have had Oregon and USC play for the Big 10, and it'd be like a play-in type game. I think that if it goes to 16, which it probably is going to go to 16, that's probably what it will move forward to in the future. It will no longer be called the conference championship game. It'll be called the SEC play-in game, Big 10 play-in game, and so on. Yep. And especially if it gets to more than 16, which if you've listened to our podcast, I don't think that it should expand past 12, because 9 through 12, rarely are they going to win a national championship, especially 10, 11, 12. It's not likely. So you add 4 more teams. 13 through 16 is not going to win a national championship. They might win a game, maybe 2. They're not going to win a national championship. There's a reason that they're 13 through 14. There's a reason that they're 9 through 12. It's just not likely. But I think that if it does move forward, which it probably will, to the 16-team playoff or more, that it's going to become a play-in type game instead of a conference championship game, because it benefits the teams being left out of it are benefiting from it because they're getting an extra bye week. Like Texas A&M's benefiting from not playing in the conference championship game, just like Oklahoma's benefiting from not playing the conference championship game in the most critical aspect, and that is getting healthy before the playoffs start.
1,000% agree with everything you said. I'm in the exact same boat. Cam, you got any additional thoughts to that?
Yeah, no, I agree for sure too. And like Carden alluded to, it's such a moneymaker for these conferences, you know, kind of talking about the SEC specifically, but it's such a moneymaker. I don't think it's going anywhere. Like he said, I think it could transition to maybe sort of a play-in game. There's been discussions of the SEC kind of like having their own playoff or having like 4 teams battle it out to, you know, kind of determine seeding or whatever. So I think there's going to be adjustments to it for sure, but it doesn't hold the weight it once did. And like you said, you've got teams benefiting. Like everybody should want to play in it and win that. But like you said, you've got teams that are probably, they would never say it publicly, but are kind of breathing a sigh of relief. Like look how much better Alabama would have been not playing in that game.
Exactly. Ole Miss is in the same boat, right?
Yeah, because Alabama lost that game, so they got no benefit from playing in it. Like if you win it, you do get benefit because you get a top 4 seed, get a bye and all that, you know, like Georgia did. But from Alabama's perspective, if you lose that game, you had to play an extra game, which obviously they didn't drop any, but that's just another game you had to get beat up in. So, you know, they would have been better off just being at home, being like A&M was or being like Oklahoma was. So, you know, I think you got to be careful not to make it to where teams are not wanting to play in it. It's almost a disadvantage to play in it to a certain extent. So that's something to be cautious of. And especially too, you know, Kirby Smart alluded to this in his press conference. He's like, we're going to a 9-game schedule next year. He was like, that was our 9th conference game, the SEC championship this year. And look how beat up both teams were.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just think about the 2 teams that then have to go on and play in the SEC championship in a 10th game, a 10th conference game. He's like, is that something we really want to take on? And I think that's why you're seeing some teams, hey, I'm going to cancel some of those non-conference games, not only to protect our playoff hopes and seeding and things like that, to just not get beat up and to survive conference play because it's such a battle of attrition. Particularly at this point in the year. So I think that's something that coaches, and he alluded to, and you know, a bunch of other coaches are really concerned about.
Yeah. To wrap this up, I think we are going to see in the next year or 2 years, because I think the NCAA is spineless and they have done nothing for years and they will do nothing for years. Until that changes, I will continue to harp on this issue. The NCAA has to figure this out. The conferences are running this like after the death of Alexander the Great. All of his generals ripped his empire apart. That is what the conferences have been doing for decades. The fact that Greg Sankey has the power that he does as just a conference commissioner, in my opinion, is ridiculous. And I love Greg Sankey. I think he's a great commissioner. But the fact that he's running this like he is a pirate on the season, there's nobody to stop him, is unbelievably ridiculous. I genuinely think in the next year or 2 years, we are going to see the first conference dropout, meaning Georgia next year, if they're in the same spot after playing 9 conference games and they're in the top 4, they will just come out and say, we withdraw our name from the SEC championship. You can't punish them. The College Football Playoff Committee is not going to take them out of the playoffs. What can the SEC really do? I understand it's a contractual obligation, but it will only end up Georgia having to pay some residual fine. Like it's not going to be more than $2 or $3 million. And when you think about the boosters and Kirby Smart and all these other people, you know, what matters to you more, a couple $1 million or putting all of your players' bodies on the line for another grueling championship game like the Alabama game was? So that's my opinion on that. I think we're all 3 in the same boat here. Change has to happen, but you know, we're going to see more of the same that we've seen over the last few years. You know, the sport of college football is going to change and leadership will not. And that is the current state of the great game that we love. And I think if we could just get somebody in there, AKA a commissioner of college football, maybe some of this stuff would change. But I digress. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tune in to all of our other segments that we did. It'll be posted at least by Wednesday night if you're watching this tomorrow night or Tuesday night. So thank you guys. And thank you again to Carden and Cameron. I'm going to do a shout out before every video, but you guys are the greatest, man. Nobody knows more, in my opinion, about the SEC than the two of you that I listen to and watch. So be sure to go over to their channel, Saturdays in the SEC. Give them a subscribe, give them a like, watch their videos. They drop some great ball knowledge. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having us. Always a pleasure, and looking forward to doing it again and having a great college football playoff.
Hell yeah. Hey, and before we go, I just have to say it so I can say it. Roll Tide. We'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.